What is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women.
The beauty of common sense. There's nothing quite like it. And of course, feminists have no idea what it looks like. Feminists are finding yet another reason to freak out today. Move over manosphere. The woke legacy media is finding something else to get hysterical about. They're now panicking over what they're calling the rise of the womanosphere. That's right. Not the ultra patriarchal manosphere. No, that was bad enough. Now that's being replaced by the rise of the womanosphere. I mean, look at this headline from the Guardian, this ultra left rag, the British Guardian. Now comes the womanosphere, the anti-feminist media telling women to be thin, fertile, and Republican. Thin and fertile. I love it. Thin, fertile, and Republican. Taboo. We can't have any of that, can we? We don't want women to be thin and fertile and Republican. And here's the byline, as you can see it. A crop of conservative personalities such as Brett Cooper and Candace Owens, and outlets like Evie, how do you say it? I don't know, are convincing young women of a gender essentialist worldview. A gender essentialist worldview. I mean, they've lost. They have they only talk to themselves at this point. They literally have lost, and they have no idea how to process that loss. I'm going to show you exactly how the liberal left has lost and how the womanosphere has won hands down. You're going to absolutely love this. Greetings, everyone. Come on in. We got an amazing show for you tonight. If you're new, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. And it'd be a privilege to have you as a part of our online community. So as you can see, they're freaking out. The woke left is utterly flipping out over a new social media trend that is going viral. And that trend is, according to these feminists, reawakening and romanticizing an an age-old time when sexism and patriarchy ruled the day. And so women need to band together to stop this trend once and for all before it gets out of control. Just one problem. The trend is composed almost entirely of women. And not just women, traditionalist women. And feminists just have no idea how to respond to this. We all have an opportunity to finally stop big tech and government overreach. It's happening, gang. Patriots are reclaiming our privacy. And you have no better way of protecting yourself than with SLNT. That's short for silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key FOBs to phones and laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today by clicking on that link below or going to slnt.com/Turley to save 15% plus free shipping on all qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/Turley for 15% off and free shipping on all qualified orders. slnt.com/Turley. Now, as I noted, this is a piece from The Guardian, again, which is just utter left-wing trash, but nevertheless, it begins by recognizing how the 2024 election heralded the age of the manosphere, where men overwhelmingly voted Trump, and I mean overwhelmingly. Right? That was the one constant we saw on November 5th in terms of the data that came out of that. A majority of men in every single age and racial ethnic category voted for Trump, especially men under the age of 30 who voted for Trump by 56 points. Or voted for Trump with 56%. It was pretty astonishing in terms of the dominance. But now we've got a new trend rising. And that's what The Guardian is calling here the Womanosphere. And this is a social media world that is directly challenging the propensity, particularly of single women who vote overwhelmingly Democrat. So these are influencers, like they dropped some names, Candace Owens, Brett Cooper, but you also have Ali Beth Stuckey and Riley Gaines, and basically the whole of Fox News' female anchor lineup. And the key characteristic of this Womanosphere is that they have the gall, they have the unmitigated gall to actually be applauding and celebrating the manosphere. They want strong men. They want men. They actually support men who have reclaimed the mythopoetic nature of manhood. Men as dragon slayers, right? We're in the shadow of St. George's Day yesterday. That was the slayer of dragons, which, of course, is what England's St. George flag represent. England is supposed to be a nation of masculine dragon slayers. And so these women, these Womanosphere traditionalists, see their roles ultimately as wives and mothers, professionals for sure, no question, but they've embraced the classical conception of femininity in the shadow of the rise of the return of classical masculinity. Now, we've talked about this before a number of times on this channel, especially in relation to President Trump and his entrances, as you can see here, into the UFC arenas. Even CNN admitted that he looks like a conquering Caesar returning back to the Colosseum to the cheers of adoring fans. A number of analysts have noted that one of the cultural dynamics that the Trump phenomenon has reawakened is something scholars call remythologization. I know it's a fancy schmancy word, but remythologization basically involves reconceptualizing or replacing a society's existing dominant myths in light of what are often dramatically changing, disruptive social, cultural circumstances. So this is something that's happened. This remythologization has happened many, many times throughout history. We're going all the way back to like the shift from the old Homeric Greek era into more the Platonic philosophical Greek era with the rise of the polis and so forth, or the shift from the old Roman Empire to the new rising Christian empire. Populations during these times of massive social disruption tend to reimagine their meta-narratives, their mythologies by which they interpret their lives differently at critical historical moments of extraordinary cultural and social disruption and global changes. Konstantin von Hofmeister has written about how the 20th century scholar Oswald Spengler, who observed that historically when populations fear the end of their cultures, when populations sense a decline in their civilization, those populations witnessing their social order suffering from severe stagnation, political paralysis, almost always historically put their hopes in what Spengler called a Caesar figure. So this is a mythic prototype of a larger-than-life figure who the people believe can actually rescue their nation. In other words, a Caesar figure is a person who rises up and publicly fights for and defends civilization from the forces who seek to destroy it. That's what Constantine had written wonderfully about in his book, this wonderful book, Esoteric Trumpism, that you definitely want. There you go. That you definitely want to grab. And so reading this Guardian article, it's so fascinating to read because this far left author is absolutely impervious. She doesn't even realize what's actually happening in what she's writing about in this objective analysis here. in rejecting the wokeness of the past several years, which the editors at The Guardian champion every single day, they're so far left, in rejecting that wokeness instead for embracing traditional family and feminine values, these women have simply thrown away the old woke mythos and have embraced instead a new mythos, which turns out to be very old, very ancient, right? Very archaeofuture, like we love to talk about. In other words, they threw away and rejected progressive feminism and instead have embraced the classical conception of feminine virtue, the maiden embodying the nature of wisdom and virtue. And they are championing men re-embracing their mythos as dragon slayers. Now, of course, this was all presaged by the rise of what's called the trad wives. Do you guys remember that a few years back? This was a trend. It's I believe it started about 3 or 4 years ago. This is where you saw housewives posting videos of their daily life, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, homeschooling, and the like. And it absolutely, the videos exploded. The videos went completely viral. And I mean, both critics and proponents alike were stunned by it. I remember I think it was New York Magazine that likened it to something akin to the New Look movement that dominated the 1940s fashion, or the emergence of Mediterranean cooking in 1990s Britain. There were very interesting social cultural assessments of the trad wife. It's literally like, and in terms of why they went so popular, it was literally like Gen Zers and millennials had they'd never even conceived of this concept. They never even encountered anything like this, right? It's something called a housewife. It's something called, a full-time mom, and they're enamored with it. They're blown away with it. They love it. Well, of course they do. It's embedded in our mythic structure of our minds. So these videos were getting millions upon millions of views, particularly on TikTok. And so a trad wife, is a woman who doesn't work. She's not a professional. She may have a side hustle, a side job, maybe something she does online or by remote. She has really no aspirations to be somebody who makes her way up in the corporate world or anything like that. Instead, she finds total fulfillment in being married and looking after their children, taking care of the home and her husband. And they talk nonstop about how fulfilling and wonderful such a life actually is. And they show how busy they are and how complicated it is to run a home effectively and efficiently. Remember, the word economics comes from 2 Greek words, ekos nomos. It literally means the law of the house, right? Ekos, how we get IKEA, I think, is a Scandinavian version of that, ekos. And so, it's a trend that absolutely exploded. And now we have this wider realm of what's being increasingly called the Womanosphere, that now includes women who are not married, who are not mothers, but they are very much attracted to and advocates of this re-traditionalized vision of the family, the classical family structure. So these are women who are very conservative. They're far more traditionalist. They're more religious. They're more nationalist populist. They're very civilizationalist. And of course, by contrast, feminists, especially at The Guardian, are they're just freaking out over this. They hated the trad wife trend. Just go look it up sometime and see some of the articles that have been written on it over the last few years. They hated the trad wife trend. You could be sure they're going to equally, if not even more so, trash the womanosphere. Unfortunately for them, these feminists, the womanosphere and the trad wife is the wave of the future. And there's actually really no way around that. It's literally baked into the demographic cake. The trad wife and the womanosphere is the future. And the reason for that is just very simple. It's because of the inevitable demographic implosion of feminists. It's because of the inevitable demographic implosion of feminists. The real reason why trad wives and the womanosphere are trending, when all said and done, is because the traditional family is growing All the while, liberal progressive feminists are literally dying away. And this is because liberal feminism embraces what's called lifestyle values, which basically, when all said and done, lifestyle values basically separate sex from procreation. So this is largely through modern contraception. So it's not just ideological. There's a practical, technological, literally dimension to this as well. But for right or for wrong, good or bad, what liberal lifestyle values necessitate by separating sex from procreation, liberal values necessitate the freedom not to reproduce. There's no way around this. This was Eric Kaufman's thesis in his 2013 book, Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth? Feminists advocate the separation of sex from procreation, and that advocacy, whether anyone likes it or not, for good or for bad, doesn't matter, that advocacy necessitates the freedom not to reproduce. And as it turns out, liberal feminists, the new base of the Democratic Party, particularly single Democratic women, are doing their best to fulfill that necessity of not reproducing. However, as we've talked about, we actually talked about earlier on this today on our video on the Amish, a number of studies have examined as precisely as they can the fertility differentials between secular liberals and religious conservatives. And in all kinds of demographic studies all over the world, but particularly here in North America and Europe, there was a clear and direct linear relationship between, I'm just going to use political terms and cultural terms, between how right-wing you were and how many children you had. So by 2010, the average number of children born to the far left in the United States was about 1.5, while the average number born to so-called far right women was 2.8, nearly 3. So this is both in the United States and Europe. On average, conservatives have a fertility advantage of 41% over liberals. So this means that for every child born to a liberal, 1.4 children are born to conservative. Don't you love averages? Yeah, 0.4 child. I know. For every child, it's even more interesting when you compare the religious to the atheistic. For every child born to an atheist or agnostic, for every one child born to an atheist or an agnostic, 2 are born to conservative religionists. And just to bring this home, in just another decade or so, demographers are predicting that the United States is going to be a very different place. There will be approximately 4 far right white females for every 1 far left white female. That's where we're going. So is it any surprise that we're seeing social media trends like Tradwise and the Womanosphere? In the midst of all of this panic from the woke left, ironically, they only have themselves to blame for their own demise. If you haven't figured out the fundamental value of replacing yourself demographically, then obviously your ideology, no matter what it is, isn't going to be around for very long. And that's exactly what's happening right now, right before our very eyes. Their liberal ideology is disappearing, slowly but surely. Woke leftism is dying out. And we've got the Tradwise and the Womanosphere to thank for it. By the way, click on the link in the description below to get all these articles and tweets I reference throughout my videos emailed to you each and every day. You're going to love it. We want you to have the best resources out there to convince your family and your friends of this new MAGA super age that's rising here.